All right, so you're here because you really want to dive deep into Slack, right? I mean, we all use it. But how many of us actually know that it started as part of a video game?
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly what we're going to be uncovering in today's deep dive, the story of how Slack went from a video game side project to totally transforming the way we work.
It's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride,
Yeah.
so buckle up because we are about to go deep into Slack.
You know what's so fascinating about Slack's story is it really embodies this idea of the identity father problem.
Okay, identity father problem, what's that?
So basically the idea is that a product's initial purpose sometimes ends up being completely different from its ultimate path to success.
Okay, so like a happy accident kind of.
Exactly. It's like, you're baking a cake and you suddenly realize, hey, the batter is actually the best part.
Wait, hold on. Baking a cake and the batter's the star. I mean, I love cake batter, but I'm a little confused. How does that apply to Slack?
All right, so picture this back in 2009, Stewart Butterfield and his team, they're all in on this ambitious online game called Glitch. And as part of developing this game, they built an internal chat tool just for the developers to stay organized. Just something to help them communicate better.
Okay, so they're focused on this big, elaborate online game. That's their cake.
Right.
But then they create this chat tool almost as an afterthought. That's the batter.
Exactly. And that's where this whole identity father problem thing becomes a valuable lesson.
Okay, I'm seeing it now.
It's about adaptability, right? Because guess what? Glitch the game, it didn't really take off the way they'd hoped. But instead of throwing in the towel, they saw the potential in that little side dish they had created, the chat tool.
Batter was better than the cake.
You got it.
So they basically scrapped the game, but realized, hey, we've got this hidden gem, this communication tool.
Right.
But I'm guessing they couldn't just launch it as is, right? There had to be some work involved?
Of course not. They needed to refine it, and that's where the concept of a minimum viable product comes in.
Okay, an MVP. I've heard that term thrown around a lot.
Yeah. It's a crucial step in the development process. Think of it like test driving a car before you commit to buying it.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You want to get a feel for the core features right before you go all in.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did Slack approach building their MVP? What were the must-haves they focused on?
They were laser focused on the core experience. They knew that to make a truly great communication tool, they had to nail the essentials.
Less is more kind of thing.
Exactly. So instead of getting bogged down with tons of fancy features, they prioritized the things that really mattered.
Like what?
So things like organized channels, seamless file sharing, and a really efficient search function.
So it was all about making teamwork feel effortless.
You got it.
Streamlining communication.
Exactly.
Okay, so they build this MVP. They've got the essential features, but did they just release it to the world and hope for the best?
No, they were way more strategic than that. They knew that user feedback was key, so they brought in people they trusted, friends, former colleagues, to really put the platform through its paces.
Okay, so like a beta test with a trusted group.
Exactly. They wanted honest opinions, and they wanted to see how people actually use the platform in a real-world setting.
So they're basically tweaking and refining based on those early user experiences.
Absolutely. They were constantly iterating and improving based on that real-world feedback.
That's smart. So at this point, they've got a solid product. They're getting great feedback from their beta testers. But how did they know they were actually onto something big? I mean, just because your friends love it doesn't mean it's going to be a global phenomenon, right?
You're absolutely right. And that brings us to this really important concept called product market fit.
Product market fit.
It's the holy grail of startups. It's not just about people using your product. It's about them loving it, needing it, and telling everyone they know about it.
Okay, so it's like finding that sweet spot where your product perfectly aligns with what the market wants and needs.
You nailed it.
So how did Slack go from this handy little tool to a must-have platform? What made it stand out from all the other communication tools out there?
Well, they did something really clever. They went beyond just replacing email. They tapped into something deeper, this desire for a more human and engaging way to work together.
Wait, hold on. Enjoy work communication. Is that even possible? I mean, work is work, right?
Right. But Slack, they somehow cracked the code. They made it fun. They made it a place where teams could connect, share ideas, and actually enjoy communicating.
Okay, you piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
How did they actually do that? What was their secret sauce?
It was a combination of things. They had a real knack for making even the most mundane tasks feel fun and intuitive. Even setting up a workspace on Slack, it's easy. That there are no clunky manuals or confusing interfaces. It just feels natural, like a place where you want to be.
So they focused not just on the functionality, but on the whole feel of the platform.
Exactly. They wanted to create an experience that was both productive and enjoyable.
I'm starting to see why people were raving about it and recommending it to everyone they knew.
Word of mouth was their biggest marketing asset.
Mm.
People became passionate advocates for Slack because it was genuinely making their work lives better.
So they've got a great product, a growing community, and they're nailing this whole enjoyable work communication thing. Sounds like smooth sailing from there, right?
Well, not quite. Even with a seemingly perfect product market fit, companies need to be willing to adapt and evolve.
Oh, I bet there were some twists and turns ahead.
Think of it like navigating a ship. Even if you're heading in the right direction, you might need to adjust your sails to catch the wind.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So what kind of sail adjusting did Slack have to do? What were some of their big pivots, and why were those changes so important?
Well, one of the most significant pivots involved integrations.
Integrations.
Yeah, initially, Slack was envisioned as the standalone communication tool, but as they gathered more user feedback, a clear need emerged.
What was it?
People wanted Slack to work seamlessly with the other tools they were already using. Think about it. You've got your file storage, your project management apps, all these different pieces of the work puzzle. And users wanted Slack to be the hub where everything connected.
That's a pretty big shift from their original vision.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine it must have been a tough decision to make, especially when they were already gaining traction as a standalone tool.
It was a gamble. For sure, they had to invest heavily in building out these integrations, making sure they were smooth, reliable, and added real value for users.
But it sounds like it was a gamble that paid off.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Slack wasn't just another communication tool, it was the glue that held everything together.
It became like the central nervous system of a team's digital workflow.
Exactly. And this pivot, it really highlights another key lesson from Slack's journey, the importance of listening to your users and being willing to adapt, even if it means deviating from your initial roadmap.
So they're adapting, they're integrating, they're becoming this indispensable hub for teams. But as they grew, as they started serving bigger and bigger companies with thousands of employees, new challenges must have popped up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you maintain that simplicity, that speed, that effortless experience when you're operating at such a massive scale?
You've hit on the classic scaling problem. It's like trying to keep a jumbo jet as nimble as a hummingbird.
That's a great analogy.
But Slack's engineers, they were obsessed with performance.
Obsessed. Tell me more.
They were absolutely relentless in their pursuit of speed and efficiency. For example, they focused intensely on message delivery speed. Even as millions of users joined the platform, they maintained near instantaneous communication.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was crucial to preserving that feeling of seamless real-time interaction that users had come to expect.
So they were constantly fine-tuning the engine under the hood to make sure it could handle the increasing load without sacrificing the user experience.
Exactly. They knew that even the slightest lag could disrupt the flow of communication and erode user satisfaction.
And this focus on technical excellence, on maintaining that snappy, responsive feel even as they scaled, that was a key factor in their continued success.
Absolutely, it was a major differentiator.
Okay, so they've got the product, the market fit, they're scaling like champs, but there's one thing that's always kind of intrigued me about Slack's growth. They didn't rely heavily on traditional advertising, did they?
You're right, their growth was largely organic, driven by word of mouth and a passionate user community.
It's almost like they tapped into some secret marketing formula. How did they create that kind of buzz without big ad campaigns? What was their secret sauce?
Their secret sauce was a genuine focus on building a thriving community. They went beyond just providing a product. They fostered a sense of belonging, a shared identity among users.
Okay, I love that. But how did they actually do that? What were some of the specific things they did to build that sense of community?
One key strategy was encouraging the creation of public Slack communities. These weren't just for work teams, they were spaces for people to connect around shared interests, hobbies, passions, you name it.
So it was like they were building a social network within a work tool.
Yeah, exactly. It expanded the platform beyond just professional collaboration, made it more personal and engaging.
Brilliant. And I'm guessing they were also pretty good at listening to their users.
Oh, absolutely. They invested heavily in user support. They were incredibly responsive to feedback, actively incorporating user suggestions into product updates.
So they were creating this two-way dialogue with their users, a genuine partnership rather than a distant company-customer relationship.
Exactly. And this approach, this commitment to community building it, turned users into passionate advocates. They weren't just using Slack, they were evangelizing it, recommending it to everyone they knew.
It's amazing how they managed to create that kind of loyalty and enthusiasm. It's a real testament to the power of building a genuine community around your product.
Hmm.
But it also makes me wonder, could Slack's success be replicated today? In a world with so many communication tools vying for our attention, could another Slack emerge and capture the hearts and minds of users in the same way?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The tech landscape has evolved significantly since Slack first emerged. The competition is fiercer and user expectations are higher than ever.
So you're saying it would be tougher for a newcomer to pull off what Slack did?
I think it would be more challenging, yes. But I also believe that the fundamental principles that drove Slack's success remain incredibly relevant.
Okay, so walk me through those principles. What are the core ingredients that made Slack such a phenomenon?
Well, first and foremost, they solved a real problem. Email was clunky, inefficient, and frankly, a bit soul-crushing. Slack offered a refreshing alternative, a way to make work communication feel more human and engaging.
So solving a real problem, check. What else?
They were obsessed with the user experience. Every detail, from the interface design to the speed of message delivery, was meticulously crafted to create a seamless and enjoyable experience. They understood that even in the world of enterprise software, delighting the user is crucial.
That's so true. We often think of enterprise software as being clunky and utilitarian, but Slack proved that it can be both functional and delightful.
Okay.
Because solving a problem user experience, what's the third ingredient?
Community. They fostered a sense of belonging among users, creating a space where people could connect, share ideas, and feel like they were part of something bigger. This turned users into passionate advocates, driving organic growth and creating a powerful network effect.
It's like they cracked the code for building a thriving digital community.
Mhm.
And that's something that transcends any particular product or platform. It's a fundamental human need, that desire to connect and belong.
Absolutely. And in a world that's increasingly digital, that need is only going to become more pronounced. So while the specific tactics might need to evolve, the core principles that fueled Slack's rise remain timeless.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. It's amazing to see how Slack went from this accidental side project to a global phenomenon by focusing on the user experience, embracing change, and building a strong community. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of the tech world. Until then, keep those minds curious.